Today, I want to talk about a word we all fear but must face: failure. Failure is painful, it's discouraging. It feels like a wall too high to climb. But let me ask you this: is failure the end? Or is it just a beginning in disguise? Think about the greats. Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before he created a working light bulb. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter saw the light of day. What do they all have in common? They failed, but they never quit. Every time you fall, you learn. Every time you stumble, you grow. Life doesn't test you to break you, it tests you to build you. Quitting is the only real failure. If you stop trying, the story ends. But if you keep going, every failure becomes a chapter in your success story. So don't fear failure, respect it, learn from it, and use it as fuel. When you fail, don't stay down, stand up, wipe off the dust, look forward, because the people who change the world aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never give up. Failure is a stepping stone, not a dead end. It is one of life's most misunderstood teachers. From a young age, we're taught to fear failure, to avoid it, to hide it as if it's a stain on our potential. But in truth, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. It is the rough, often painful path that leads to growth, resilience, and real achievement. When we fail, we're given a rare opportunity to understand our limits and to push beyond them. Each failure exposes areas that need improvement. It challenges our assumptions and forces us to reevaluate our approach. In that struggle, we grow. Consider anyone who has achieved something great, and you will find someone who has failed more than once. Whether it's a business owner who faced bankruptcy before finding the right formula, or an artist whose work was rejected before it was celebrated, their stories are laced with failure. Yet they did not see failure as a full stop. They saw it as a comma, a pause to regroup, reflect, and redirect. They stepped on each failure like a rung on a ladder, climbing higher each time. This mindset doesn't make failure less painful, but it does make it purposeful. When you treat failure as final, it becomes a wall that traps you. But when you see it as a step, it becomes a launchpad. It shifts your perspective from "I'm not good enough" to "I'm not there yet." It teaches you patience, discipline, and most importantly, it strengthens your will. Those who succeed are not always the smartest or the most talented. Often, they are simply the most determined. The ones who are willing to fall and get back up again. We need to stop seeing failure as something shameful and start embracing it as part of the journey. It's not a sign you're on the wrong path, it's proof that you're trying, that you're moving, that you're willing to risk something meaningful. Every mistake carries a message, and every setback builds a story. If you're failing, it means you're stretching yourself. You're in motion, and that's where the seeds of success are planted. Not in the comfort of safety, but in the courage to fall and rise again. Great achievers failed repeatedly but persevered. Their journeys were not marked by constant triumph, but by relentless effort in the face of repeated defeat. Behind every major success story lies a series of failures, some small, some massive, but all essential. These individuals didn't stumble upon greatness by accident. They earned it through their refusal to give up when things got hard. What separates them from others is not that they avoided failure, but that they chose to continue despite it. They understood that failure was not a sign of incompetence, but a necessary part of the process of mastering their craft, refining their vision, and discovering new paths forward. Thomas Edison is remembered for inventing the light bulb, but many forget that he failed over 1,000 times before achieving success. When asked about those failures, he famously said he didn't fail, he just found 1,000 ways that didn't work. That mindset is the essence of perseverance. It's a belief that failure is feedback, not final. Similarly, Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for supposedly lacking creativity. and went bankrupt several times before creating the empire that bears his name. His determination to bring his imagination to life never wavered, even when the world doubted him. The same pattern can be seen in the lives of athletes, scientists, leaders, and innovators. Michael Jordan missed thousands of shots and lost hundreds of games. He was even cut from his high school basketball team. But instead of quitting, he used those moments as motivation to improve. His greatness came not from perfection, but from persistence. Even Albert Einstein, whose name is now synonymous with genius, struggled in school and was once considered incapable of success in academics. Yet he went on to reshape the way we understand the universe. These stories are not exceptions, they are reminders that greatness is forged in difficulty. Each failure a great achiever faced was a test of their resolve. Instead of letting failure define them, they used it to refine themselves. They adjusted, they improved, and most importantly, they kept going. That spirit, the ability to rise again and again, is what truly defines success. It's not about how many times you fall, but how many times you choose to rise, learn, and move forward with even greater determination. Quitting is the only true failure. No matter how many times you fall, as long as you continue to get back up, you are still in the fight, still learning, and still growing. But the moment you give up completely, that's when all potential ends. Mistakes, setbacks, and losses are not failures in themselves. They are natural parts of progress. Everyone encounters obstacles, and everyone experiences moments of doubt. The real difference lies in whether you choose to keep moving forward, or whether you decide that the journey is no longer worth the effort. That decision, to walk away, to stop trying, is what defines true failure. When you quit, you silence every possibility of success that may have followed the next step. You close the door on what could have been. There is no telling how close you might have been to a breakthrough, a solution, or a turning point. So many people give up just before the moment when everything could have changed. They see one more setback and assume it's the final verdict, not realizing it was just one more step in a longer process. Perseverance doesn't guarantee immediate success, but quitting guarantees that success will never come. The truth is, it's often hardest to keep going when you're closest to growth. That's when doubt creeps in the loudest. But the ability to keep pushing through the discouragement, the fatigue, and the disappointment is what builds resilience. And resilience is the foundation of every achievement worth having. The journey to any meaningful goal is rarely smooth. It is filled with uncertainties, wrong turns, and painful lessons. But those who succeed are not the ones who avoid struggle. They are the ones who refuse to let the struggle stop them. Even when progress is slow or invisible, even when everything seems to be going wrong, the decision to continue is powerful. It's a choice to believe in the value of the process, in the possibility of change, and in your own capacity to rise. You can stumble, fall, restart, pivot, but as long as you keep going, you are not failing. Quitting is the only true failure because it ends the story before it has a chance to unfold. Keep writing your story. Keep going no matter how hard it gets. Each failure holds a lesson and builds resilience. Though it often arrives with pain, disappointment, and frustration, failure is not meaningless. It carries valuable insights that cannot be learned through success alone. When something doesn't go as planned, we are forced to examine our choices, question our methods, and think more critically about our goals. This self-reflection, uncomfortable as it may be, is where true growth begins. Failure forces us out of autopilot. It demands attention. It makes us pause, rethink, and try again with sharper focus and deeper understanding. When we fail, we are presented with two options: give up or learn. Those who choose to learn discover that failure is often a better teacher than success. Success can make us complacent, leading us to assume that our way is the only way. Failure, on the other hand, strips away illusion. It shows us what doesn't work, what we misunderstood, what we overlooked. And from those realizations, we grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Every failure becomes a lesson in strategy, patience, humility, and persistence. Beyond the knowledge it provides, failure also builds resilience. Resilience is not something we are born with, it is something we develop by facing hardship and continuing anyway. Every time we recover from failure, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of overcoming adversity. That mental toughness doesn't come from easy wins, it's forged in the fire of difficulty. We gain confidence not because things are easy, but because we've survived and learned from what was hard. Resilient people don't fear failure because they've learned to see it as a temporary state, not a permanent label. They know that bouncing back is part of the process. And over time, they grow more fearless, more adaptable, and more prepared for whatever challenges come next. The more we fail, the more we learn. The more we learn, the more we grow. The more we grow, the stronger we become. This cycle, failure, learning, resilience, drives personal and professional development. So, while failure may sting in the moment, it offers something far more valuable in return: the chance to improve. The strength we build through those experiences becomes the foundation for future success, not in spite of failure, but because of it. Persistence turns failure into success. It is the quiet force that bridges the gap between falling short and reaching a goal. While talent, intelligence, and opportunity play their parts, it is persistence that ultimately decides who succeeds and who doesn't. Failure by itself is not the end of the road. It only becomes a dead end when we stop trying. Persistence is what gives failure meaning. It takes the disappointment of defeat and transforms it into fuel for the next attempt, the next solution, the next breakthrough. In any meaningful pursuit, setbacks are inevitable. There will be moments when plans unravel, efforts fall flat, and progress seems invisible. These are the moments when persistence is tested. Many people stop at the first or second failure, assuming it means they are not cut out for the path they've chosen. But those who persist understand that failure is not a message to quit. It is a signal to adapt, adjust, and try again with greater wisdom. The most successful individuals are often not the ones who had the fastest rise, but the ones who refused to give up when things got tough. Every time you persist in the face of failure, you build momentum. Each attempt, even the unsuccessful ones, brings you closer to understanding what works. That accumulation of effort, trial, and revision shapes not only your outcomes, but also your character. Persistence sharpens your problem-solving skills and strengthens your emotional endurance. It teaches patience, discipline, and belief in the long game. It turns the journey itself into a learning process, where failure is not a sign of defeat, but a stepping stone toward a more refined strategy. History is filled with examples of people who succeeded simply because they refused to give up. Whether it's a scientist running thousands of experiments, a writer facing endless rejections, or an athlete training through injury and loss, persistence is the common thread. Success is rarely a straight line. It is a winding road with obstacles that test your will. But if you keep going, even when progress feels slow or invisible, failure starts to lose its power. Eventually, effort adds up, things begin to change, and success arrives not because you never failed, but because you never stopped moving forward. The world remembers those who keep going despite the odds. In every generation, the names that are etched into history are not those who had an easy path, but those who faced overwhelming challenges and chose to rise above them. These individuals stood firm when others gave up, pushed forward when failure seemed certain, and believed in their vision even when the world doubted them. It is this unwavering determination in the face of adversity that captures the world's attention and earns lasting respect. Their stories inspire not because they were perfect, but because they were relentless. Adversity reveals character. When the odds are stacked high and success seems impossible, most people retreat. but a few choose to persist. They dig deep, drawing strength from within, and continue even when every step feels heavier than the last. These are the people who make a difference, not because they had fewer obstacles, but because they refuse to let those obstacles define them. Their courage to keep moving becomes a beacon for others, showing that hope, effort, and belief can triumph over even the hardest circumstances. History is filled with examples. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison before becoming the leader who helped heal a divided nation. Helen Keller, blind and deaf from a young age, broke barriers in education and advocacy. Malala Yousafzai was shot for seeking an education, yet she rose to become a global voice for girls' rights. These figures and countless others are remembered not because they lived easy lives, but because they chose not to be broken by the difficulty they faced. Even in everyday life, there are unsung heroes who keep going despite personal struggles, those battling illness, poverty, discrimination, or loss, yet still working, dreaming, and striving. Their perseverance may not make headlines, but it matters deeply. It shapes communities, inspires others quietly, and builds the foundations of real progress. The truth is, the world notices courage, it values endurance, it honors those who do not quit when things get hard. In the end, it's not the number of victories that makes a legacy. It's the strength shown in the moments when victory seemed out of reach. Those who keep going, no matter the odds, leave a mark that time cannot erase.